This is the Milo Sweet Podcast, where you'll learn to get unstuck. Start now. Conquer life's challenges by learning to do difficult. Find quick and clever ways to overcome. Wait, did you think life was going to be easy? Remember, all of your excuses are now dead to me. Let's get started. Guess what time it is? It's time for you to hit the subscribe button and find just 1% that you think will benefit from this. But if you're feeling a little generous, right? Or you're super free with your time right now, probably doing nothing because you're listening to this. Well, maybe if you're doing something, actually just make yourself free right now. Hit subscribe. What are you waiting for? Hit it. Come on. Hit subscribe. Well, and not only that, the thing that I don't know, I could be reaching here and you can tell me what you think, but I like that you focus on something from your childhood that you were just curious with, and it kind of paved a path for you. Not only that, though, a lot of times when people get older, they forget about the people that paved that path for them. And you really took the time to include those people in that. And I think that is important to mention, especially here, we're separated from elderly people. I'm not able to, I was going to plan to see my grandmother and I have kids, so now it's not a good idea. And I think it's really just important for us, like you said, when you wanted to tell their story, you went through the trouble of finding their story, protecting that story, putting it in a format that would work for today, and then giving them the opportunity to help you tell it. I think that's super respectful. I don't know. I think that's really beautiful. That's something that I would love for other people to do. That might not be in the same platform or in a film, but taking that time to show the people that have paved the way, that have given us opportunities to learn or devoted their life to something, I really think is an incredible feat to do that, to give them a chance to reflect and think about all the good that's happened in their life, and to give them a time to just express it, because that could be one of their greatest accomplishments. And the fact that they may not be able to do it anymore could be very challenging for them, especially if it was very rewarding. So just being able to relive it through film, or even just through talking to you sound super excited about it. I would find that to be very comforting, and just a sign that life can get better, that someone would care about the work that you've done, right? Think about the age that they were when they had no idea of you when they were working on this, and to think that you would work to find their story. I think that's really beautiful, and I would encourage people to do that. I know now I'm thinking, have I done that for my grandmother, or my family, or people that I really do value? I just think that's such a beautiful thing. And then go through the trouble to market it and put it together in a digestible format, because it is super important to be able to do that. Now, what do you think was the hardest part working on the film, and what you learned the most?
The hardest part, I was going to lead into this. Remember I was telling you, if we didn't act now, it would be too late.
Right.
Since we filmed them, of the astronauts we interviewed, Bruce McCandless, Paul Weitz, Owen Garriott, and Alan Bean have passed away. Right. And to sit there and edit the interview, that I was, coincidence. It's gives me goosebumps. I was working on the sequence in the film that had Bruce McCandless's interview when I found out that he died, and I found out afterwards that was the very last interview film that he ever gave. Same thing with Paul Weitz. Paul Weitz was on the first mission that actually rescued the spacecraft, and I've had people I've admired die, and you feel upset, but this really, really, really hit home, because I was there going, oh my God, I feel so blessed that I had the chance to tell their story. And my favorite story out of this whole tragedy, when we went to interview Paul Weitz, he was at a show, and I came down the stairs. The name of the show was Space Fest, which is held in Arizona. And we came down the stairs where all the astronauts are sitting, and they sit at tables. You can chat with them. They sign autographs. You can get photos taken and so forth. And I just looked at them and panicked. I just like, oh my God, who am I? Who am I? I can't do this. I can't do this. we went back to the hotel room, which is in the JW Marriott in Tucson, and we had to do a mindset change. I had to give myself the boost. My wife and I were going backwards and forwards, 15 minutes long. We came down. I'm like, okay, I can do it. And we had done sales training courses and so forth, and how to sell your pitch and so forth. So it wasn't alien for me to get into this mindset. But standing there in front of my childhood heroes, suddenly all that was forgotten, right? So anyway, we come back down 15 minutes later, and Paul Weitz is sitting there. He was one of the first astronauts you could go up to. And I approached him and I said, Mr. Weitz, would you mind being interviewed for a film we're doing about Skylab? And he just point blank said, no, I don't want to be interviewed. And I'm like, and because we had done this morale boost not 10 minutes beforehand, I was so super calm. My wife was telling me, she's going, God, I didn't recognize you. And I remember just vividly saying to him, that is just such a pity, because we spoke to your crewmate yesterday, and he said we need to speak to you because what you have to tell is very important. And he's looking at me, and then I also added, I'm not some conspiracy nut. I'm not going to drop some garbage in front of you and say, you never flew or anything like that. I am the real deal. There's no garbage coming from my end. And he just nodded and he goes, is it just Q&A? And I went, yep. And he goes, you've got 10 minutes. And I go, okay, I only need 5, but thank you for the 10. And so we secured the interview with him. It was after a presentation that he did, and he said, okay, I'm ready to go. And it nearly brings me to tears. When we started talking, he didn't want to stop. He didn't care about the 10 minutes. The second, because I knew my stuff, right? And he sensed that immediately, that I wasn't here going, when you were flying up on that rocket in 1980, whatever, right? I knew exactly what I was talking about. And then after we finished interviewing him, he said, well, now you've got to interview my son because he has some stories to tell you as well. So we got Paul Weitz. We didn't realize at the time he was very ill. We also got his very last interview ever. He died 6 weeks after we interviewed him.
This is so hard to hear, because I think just understanding, I don't know if you've read this book. It's called Relentless by Tim Grover. He was the personal trainer for Kobe Bryant, Dwayne Wade, and I think Michael Jordan. And the concept of his book is basically just mostly follow your instincts. They're more true to you than you realize, that some of the wiring in you is really there to help you on your path to success. But just hearing a lot of what you're saying is just very instinctual. And just, if you didn't act on those instincts, right, you wouldn't be right here, right now. I don't know. That just kind of, it makes me uncomfortable in a good way, though. There's a good uncomfortable that's kind of making you realize it's okay if you're in the middle of a pandemic. It's okay if there's global chaos, but you can kind of trust yourself. And I feel like the story is really hitting home for me to say, it's okay. Just like you said, you knew your stuff. You were able to go and calm yourself. I work in sales, and sales is hard. And for you to say that you use the sales, that you use sales to get yourself in the mindset is phenomenal. I love that. But then just to say that, you were not able, you didn't take no for an answer. However, you didn't bully him or make him feel bad about it. You just use your true conviction. I think that speaks volumes to someone. It's something I think that as humans we can really feel when someone really cares about it. I don't know how. I'm not sure the research on that, but I do know I can feel that. Like hearing you talk about it, I'm gonna be super honest, totally more fascinated in the story of just you as a kid loving this and turning it into something super beautiful, hearing your wife along the journey. For me, that's what would sell it for me. Now for my kids, they're too young. They don't care about any of that. They would love just all things space. They're like, space. So that to them is like, they have so many questions, endless questions, that I'm like, I actually am very grateful to purchase this right after this. I'm like, this is what we're doing this weekend. You're going to sit down, you're going to watch this, and I can stop searching Google. I appreciate
stop searching Google and search for Skylab.
I know. That was perfect. Did I set you up right? I set you up exactly
you need
right
to
for that bit.
edit the little at the end of it. What was I going to say? Oh, yes. With regards to all this, uncomfortable in a good way. Yeah. Making this movie and writing the books and dealing with astronauts who, when they call up your home phone, I'll talk to them, not a problem. I'll hang up the phone and I go, oh my God. Right. Now, my comfort zone, I grew up, I was very shy. I didn't, make a big song and dance about what I was doing. And of course, being into space, it was a nerdy thing to be doing. Right. And so doing this film and having to go out and talk to people, my comfort zone is about 100 kilometers away from where I like it to be. Now, this is something I think is important to discuss as well. It's not all been a bed of roses. We've had ups and downs, and the downers have been extremely hard. I had no idea what the film industry was like. I had no idea you had to sell your soul to the devil just to get your film put in a film festival. It's so true. We've learned so much, but it's been one hell of a hard drive up that hill. On a good day, I'll say, yeah, it was all worth it when I'm sitting next to the astronauts and they're greeting me by name, then I feel it's all worth it. But when I get a knockback from a film festival, then I'm like, what am I doing? It is. That's life. It is.
That is life.
We've got the tools from the selling techniques and so forth that we learned. And I think the biggest vote of confidence I ever got was from Gracia Lausma, Jack Lausma's wife, where she just said to me, she said, look, I'm happy you asked us if we would like to be filmed, because if you don't ask, you won't get what you want.
That is so true. And that's so eerie. Like, I literally podcasted earlier today, and that was the conversation, that you have to learn to ask. That is, whoa, you're going to freak me out.
You've got to be genuine. You can't BS yourself with like you were saying with Paul Weitz. I couldn't bully him. That just was not factored into the equation. I had to convince him, and not persuade him. I had to convince him persuade him that talking about what he did was worthwhile talking about, because a lot of people are interested to hear it. And it would be such a shame if those memories were lost forever. And the second he heard that, then he knew he was on safe ground with me.
That's actually one of the biggest keys to selling. And safety, to me, translates to trust. Is if you really want to be good at selling, you need to be someone that people can trust, right? So you communicate it like, hey, you can trust me. Just because there's so many times you do work and someone else doesn't value it. So I definitely think that's super important. And I think that also goes back to, trusting ourselves, like seeing how your interests grow over space and searching for Skylab and learning about NASA. I think that allows you to trust yourself as well, because you see, okay, wait, this is worth the investment. This is not going anywhere. I've been fascinated with this for a very long time. It's worth the investment. I think that's really important. And I am amazed, first, that you have the guts to ask these people. Like, I don't know. I have some guts, but I think I would have struggled a little bit, right? And then that shortly after, you realize, wow, if I didn't do it at that exact moment, it would have never happened. And that is, I think that's a hard concept for people right now. And it takes a mindset shift. I hate to quote sales techniques right now, but honestly, sales has given me some of the best the best tools to exercise my mind. I'll say it that way. It's not mind control, but it gives you a way to have perspective. And I think that's super key. Now, where can people find Searching for Skylab or your books or your apparel? Like, I think that's pretty cool too. You sell shirts.
Awesome. Well,
I love that.
I think the best or the first point of contact is www.searchingforskylab.com. Searching for Skylab is one word. And you'll find there links to the film, links to the T-shirts, links to the books, links to a cup of coffee with the director if you so choose, but his wife might bang you over the head if you happen to be female. I'm being serious here. This is the Australian humour that catches the Americans off guard. I forgot about this. My apologies.
I love it.
I used to live in San Diego years ago, right? And I still manage to, if I get somebody on the wrong foot and they don't get that I'm joking around, it can have lethal consequences for me.
This is my humor. I don't know if you you haven't known me long, but this is my humor. I'm very direct, a little off, where you're like, you don't know if you should laugh or you're not sure if I'm serious. You're like, yeah.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I've been crying through the whole thing because I wasn't sure if I should laugh or cry. And I thought I'll choose the safe option.
I actually did cry. I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm like, you know what I thought about? I thought, wouldn't that be amazing if I got to the end of my life and I did something so valuable through my life that a kid that I never met would seek me out because my life mattered to them and they would want to tell my story. I don't know. That just, I couldn't even put that into words. I really am struggling right now. That was really beautiful to me. There's a lot of people that get to the end of their life and no one's wanting to tell their story. And I just think it takes courage and guts. And it also takes a lot of compassion. So that's a wonderful story to me.
Well, I think the biggest eye-opener when we had our premiere in the U.S. Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville, Alabama, a young girl, I won't mention her name for her security, came up to me. She was 10 years old. And she just goes, I really loved your film and thank you for making it. I'm like, wow, I touched somebody who is just starting their adventure and learning about space. And she was, for a short time, our youngest fan. We found somebody who's approximately 1 year younger. And they are the type of people we think, wow, theirs is a vessel to be filled, or how does the quote go? The mind is not what's that? I think it's a Greek philosopher quote.
I wish I could help you out right now, but I don't think I know it. I'm so sorry.
The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Because I feel like I'm on fire to learn, but also to learn with my kids. Like I don't know, for me, that's the most beautiful time in my life is learning, truly being curious and sharing it together. Because when I was a kid, like you were saying, like being in space or learning about space was a nerdy thing. And I was an avid reader and I loved to write. And I didn't grow up in an environment that cultivated that. So that was more just something I did silently. I didn't talk to people about it. But to have an environment where you can learn and discover and be curious and collaborate with others with the same is like pretty amazing. So I want to wrap it up. Is there any last words or any other things that you think we should know about Searching for Skylab or we should keep in mind? And if they have to pick one thing from your website to purchase, I want to know what you think it should be.
Everybody has said to me, the second time I watched it was better because all the stuff that was coming at me, I had a chance to digest it. Now, I've tried to slow the pace down as much as I could for a 90-minute film that covers a series of missions that took place over the course of 9 months. It's difficult to do. It's either too much factual stuff coming at you, or you slow it down so much that it becomes boring. So I hope I've found the happy medium. It is a documentary, right? It's not Star Wars or Harry Potter. But everyone who's seen it has given it really good reviews. Unfortunately, the fact that we're an independent production means we're up against big studios when we're trying to get it out there. But we're hoping with the correct marketing, we can finally get that chapter moving on this film. On the 14th of May, I'm launching on YouTube a complimentary series of programs about Skylab called iSkylab, as in iRobot. And we just take a couple of themes that are featured in the movie and go into them in a little bit more detail. And the episode that's coming up on May 14th, which is the anniversary of the launch, will deal with the impact that took place in Australia in 1979. And that is a story, considering Skylab is a forgotten chapter of America's space program, the fact that it impacted in Australia is even more so forgotten.
I think this is wonderful, because the next thing I thought about was like, I wonder if we could make a mini series, because that is usually the way. Sometimes if it's documentary style, I think that sometimes people need to have just a little bit of information about why it's important. And then once they understand why this is important to us, then they're able to be interested to digest the how and the what. So I think that's super important. I would love to continue to market that. So you just let me know and we can hop on another podcast and do that. So this was amazing. I want to thank you so much for your time. I seriously am actually going to purchase it right after we get off the podcast. So I'm like, this is what I'm doing this weekend. I'm already thinking about the food we're going to eat while we watch it. So this was amazing. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. Thank you. I'm glad.
All right, that's another episode in the books. Hello? I said it's over. Why are you still listening? Like, seriously, the episode is over. If you're still listening right now, you know what? You're probably a chronic procrastinator. Guess what? I'm still listening too. Come on, for real, seriously. We gotta go do something productive. No, like, for real. No, for real. Okay. You can keep listening.